I've always considered my cabin by the lake a peaceful retreat. The quiet water, the rustle of the trees, and the distant hum of nature made it my perfect escape. That is, until Karen and her HOA decided that my very presence was a problem. It began with a polite notice slipped under my door. Apparently, I was violating community standards by having guests over for the weekend. I laughed. My cabin had been in my family for generations, and every inch of it, including the surrounding land, was mine. But Karen, fueled by the authority of the HOA, was undeterred. She escalated quickly, sending letters demanding I vacate the cabin entirely. I called the HOA office to clarify. "You can't evict me from my property," I said, keeping my tone calm. "I own the cabin and the surrounding land." Karen, predictably, answered the phone with a saccharine voice dripping with false concern. "Well, technically, you need to comply with HOA rules," she said. "This is serious. If you don't, we'll have no choice but to take action." Her threats were laughable once I considered the facts. Not only did I own the cabin, but I also held the title to the lake itself, and the only parking lot that provided access to the property. In other words, if she tried to enforce any eviction, she would find herself cut off from water access and unable to park anywhere near the lake. The next weekend, Karen decided to make her move. A group of HOA members arrived at my cabin, clipboards in hand, ready to confront me. I greeted them calmly from the deck, the lake glinting behind me. "Hello, everyone," I said. "Welcome. Before you proceed, I should remind you that this property, including the lake and the parking lot, is privately owned. Any attempts to enforce an eviction without my consent would be trespassing." Her confidence faltered for a moment as she realized the magnitude of her oversight. "Well, we didn't," she began, stammering. I interrupted, gesturing toward the lake and parking area. "Enjoy the view. You'll notice the parking lot you rely on is mine. The lake you boat on is mine. You can't enforce your rules here without violating my property rights." The tension was palpable. I could see their minds spinning as they grasped the implications. Attempting an eviction would not only fail but could land them in legal trouble. Karen's voice, usually loud and commanding, dropped to a mutter. I smiled politely and poured myself a cup of coffee. Over the following weeks, her threats dwindled. She tried sending letters, making calls, and rallying other HOA members, but nothing worked. The reality was clear. I owned the land, the lake, and the access points. Her authority, derived from the HOA, had no jurisdiction over actual ownership. The neighborhood soon realized that Karen's bluster was meaningless in the face of legal reality. My cabin, the lake, and the parking lot remained untouched, serene, and completely under my control. Every visit was a quiet reminder of the lesson I had inadvertently taught the HOA. Audacity has limits, and power without authority is powerless. From that day on, I enjoyed my cabin more than ever. Karen still prowls the HOA meetings, clipboard in hand, but she no longer bothers me at the lake. I can sit on my deck, watch the sun glint off the water, and smile, knowing that sometimes ownership, and a little patience, is the ultimate defense against even the most overbearing neighbor. Character count: 5,086 white heavy checkmark.